for me, like I can get to a certain level and like everything functioning good, but then past that, now I'm like not wanting to concentrate at work. I'm getting pissed off at home. It's like that's too much for me. So I got to back that off a little. But like you said, with the plan, you could sit down and say, maybe you have these same buckets and you're like, okay, I want to go churches every Sunday and I'm going to do like 10 minutes of prayer time devotional every morning to just start the day and set the tone for the day. Then you're going to say, okay, for work, I'm going to commit that I'm working no more than 40 hours a week and I'm going to communicate effectively when like there's projects going on and I need to put in extra time, and I'm only going to do 3 or 4 work trips per year. And then you kind of got that limit there, and you've got that time frame to do like as much as you possibly can, as long as it fits in that time frame. And then if you just work smarter and make better choices with the time that you have, like the sky is still the limit. You don't have to work like 80 hours a week.
We believe that you are strong by design, and you were made in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit. You're listening to the #1 Strength and Health Authority podcast in the world. So let's get ready to unlock your potential and transform your life in today's episode. Hi there, and welcome to another episode of the Strong by Design podcast. And the table's floating. Table's moving. No, it's not. This is Coach Chris Wilson, and we welcome you to the show. If you're a new listener, so great to have you. You're going to love this conversation today. And if you're a return listener, then we thank you for coming back. We continue to have new topics of conversation, new guests, and today our guest is actually our founder of Critical Bench and longtime friend, and somebody who knows a lot about this particular topic, because we are living examples of men that are doing everything possible to balance all the different areas of our lives. So, Mike, welcome to Strong by Design today.
Thanks. I'm a guest.
You are a guest.
Guest on our own show.
Yes, that's a very possible thing. We've talked about this before. Like if it's a topic of conversation where you're the founder and the co-host can still be the guest. Yes.
All right. I'll be the guest.
I've been a guest on this show.
How about you be the co-guest?
And wait, I can't be a co-guest if you're
I'm a guest and you can be a co-guest, and we're just having a chat about this topic.
So there's no host right now. It's just a couple of guys.
Yeah, let's just ditch the host and just,
all right.
Just two guys in a podcast helmet, and we'll take it from there.
Just run wild with it. Well, hey, before we get into the topic, we do encourage all of you listening to please share this conversation with someone at the end. It's really easy to do a couple of taps, and you can quickly share it with a friend or a family member, because it really helps us grow the show and reach more people. And we know this conversation will be a meaningful one, because we talk about this subject all the time. It comes up in various ways. We are I think striving, both of us, in all these different areas of our lives to try and continually level up. But it hasn't always, I love how when we were talking about this previously, Mike thinks of this almost as like buckets, or years ago, if you go back, and I didn't think about it like this, but we all have these different buckets or areas of our lives, right? And from one stage of our life to another, there's a change. These buckets don't always stay the same. Some buckets become way more important, and some that you never even had, you acquire as time goes by and become more relevant. So why don't we just start talking about this whole concept of balance in our lives?
So neurobalance?
No, it has nothing to do with like walking type balance.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
It is life balance. Sounds so boring.
I know. Well, we're going to try and dress it up. That's the nature of the talk.
All right. Well, I've heard a lot of advice from different coaches, entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you've read these things, heard these things, listened to other podcasts where people tell you that you need to like want something so bad that you don't even sleep, that you don't even eat. Like everything's just hardcore focused on this one thing that you want to become a world dominator in. Now, being really the world's best, elite level, world class at something. And for a lot of men, it can be some kind of athletic endeavor or some kind of physique goal, or it could actually be something career-driven or money-driven. These are the examples that I've seen it in. And I think for people to want to be the best, it's a great desire, but at what expense? At what expense? What else is going to fall down or is going to collapse as you try to be the absolute best in one area? And then I think there's a difference between just being really good or being, an A player or a B plus player in a certain area of your life versus being the world's best. If you're going to be an Olympic athlete, or you're going to give up a lot of things. You're going to be at the Olympic Training Center. You're not going to college. You're not living with your family anymore. You're probably not having a social life. So there's areas that are just neglected because you want to be the best in our country and you want to be the best in the world at this one thing. And that's just an example. It doesn't mean that's like a bad ambition. But if you want to be the world's best at something, I believe other areas of your life are going to suffer. And if that's the choice you make, then that's okay. But for me, and for my life, we just mentioned some of these buckets. I I have a few different buckets. One, which I think is the most important bucket, is the faith bucket, faith in God. Then there's career and business. That's another bucket. Then we've got our health and fitness. Then we've got relationships, which I break that down into being a husband and being a father. I've got 2 children, as you know. So those are the different areas of life. Now, a lot of business groups that I'm in, we've seen guys that they just excel at business. They crushed it. They made millions of dollars, but it's a very common thing where they wound up neglecting the family. The wife feels like she's not getting attention or not getting paid enough date nights and interest in her life. You're growing separately, and you're kind of doing this on your own. And it turns out divorce happening a lot in these situations. A lot of very successful men that have made a lot of money wound up like losing their marriages or not having very close relationships with their children. And we've heard the expression before when people are lying on their deathbed. They don't usually say, I wish I worked more and made more money. Right. But it's a very common thing that we want to do. We want to do well in our careers. We want to climb the ladder. We want to build our businesses. We want to make more money. We want to provide. We think we're doing it for our family. We want to make money so college is taken care of, retirement's taken care of, and we're providing for the family. So I've seen that area where other buckets have fallen behind. I've seen it with health too. You focus so much on business and work and making money, and then you get overweight and wind up getting diabetes or heart issues and having major health problems, right?
There's a major overlap, right, with some of these buckets. One impacts the other. And that's where you realize being one-dimensional is like worst case scenario, where maybe, one bucket is filled to the brim. The water's overflowing because you are world class in that one area of your life, whatever that is. But there's absolutely no water left for these other buckets. They're dry.
Which is really just priorities.
Yeah.
And are you even aware that you've got these different areas? Before having a family and being in my 40s now, before the business was really taken off, the buckets were pretty easy to me. It was New Year's resolution time, and I'd have some money goals, maybe some work goals, fitness, and like some social life goals. What kind of hobbies do I want to do? Where can I meet a girlfriend or something? Mm-hmm. Those were like the basics in my 20s. It was like 3 things. I want to get ripped. I want to make this much money, and I want to like have this hobby and like have a girlfriend. It was like pretty simple. Yeah. Now there's so much more of me. Other people need me. I got to think about the kids. I got to think about my wife. I got to think about the employees and all these other people that are depending on me. It's not
Business
just about what I want.
relationships,
Business
yeah.
relationships, yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
I mean, that's a huge category, just that, the relationship bucket, because there's so many parts to it besides being a husband and being a father and being a friend and being a boss and a leader and being a business associate. I mean, there's business relationships that are vital to you and this business that we're in prospering.
Right, and that's almost two buckets. That's
Right.
your business and relationship.
Right.
But I mean, we've seen it in sports too. Like we did the Olympic example, or if you're going to be like the best physique competitor in the world, what's going to happen to your business or to your family if you're just so focused on that everything revolves around it. Mm-hmm. So I think there's how is it possible, really, this is a question we've asked one of our business coaches, Dr. Ron. It's like, how do you keep all these areas working at a high level? How do you get an A in like every category? And is that even possible?
Right.
That's something we asked him, and he said at the time, no, I don't think you can have an A in everything at the same time. But I think you, and I've given you props on this before, I think you do a really good job of keeping all these different categories at an A or a B level. And there's different seasons for it. So for us, our kids are younger, they're in elementary school, and they're not going to be there forever. They're not going to be living at home forever. This is a quick time span that we have left with the kids. So, and then they're going to be adults. They're going to be living their own lives. They're not going to be that interested in us as much as they are now. So if you back up and see that perspective, that this season, let's say it's 10 more years where we're at now, I'll spend more time with the family and at home, travel maybe a little less right now than when they're gone and they're away at college or working jobs or starting businesses or whatever they're doing. Maybe that's when I want to travel more, go to more business things, spend more time at work, put in the extra hours on passion projects and things. So the business is growing and it's doing well and we're having a record-breaking year. But at the same time, could I push harder and grow even faster? I probably could. But then again, it comes back to like at what expense? Because some non-negotiables, I want to work out every single day. Am I perfect about it? No, it doesn't happen every single day, but that's one of those things. I'm calling it non-negotiable, and it still seems like it doesn't happen all the time, which obviously is an area I need to work on, but we're working out right after this podcast. We've got like a few more minutes left, and then our yoga teacher comes to kick our butt, which is funny because that's our hardest workout of the week.
Yes.
She's like, you guys are big and strong, but you're not very mobile.
and holding dolphin pose for like 10 seconds is
So I mean, it's a priority. We make it a priority in our life, and it's not as much anymore about how do I look. It's about, do I have the energy to show up for everybody else and to be the best that I can be. It's about health. Am I going to be around in 10 years, 20 years to see my kids get married and to be part of their lives? When they're gone, are my wife and I going to be traveling and doing things together? Like, is this business going to live longer, or is it going to be done when I'm done? Like, the health is important. It all falls apart if you don't have the health. We were trying to rank these buckets, and it was tough. Like, we have to put, we always say God, family, work, like in that order. But then there's health. Where does that go? Because if you don't have your health, you don't have any of this stuff. And the Bible tells us the body is a temple. So we're supposed to take care of it, and we can't really show up for anybody else unless we take care of our own health and fitness. So I feel like that one's almost on the side, like you have to take care of that.
Yeah, it's running in the background with all of those things. You're not good to anybody if you're not first taking care of yourself. In the airplane, when the masks drop out of the ceiling, what do they tell you? Put it on yourself first so that you can help others. You have to take care of your own health and well-being and fitness.
And if you don't, none of these other categories are going to be any good either. Yeah. You're not going to have any energy at work to be productive and do what you need to do. You're not going to show up for your wife as a husband. You're not going to be a good dad. Like, everything's going to fall apart without that. But then I think the foundation of all of it has to be putting God first above everything else and just following that wisdom. If you have that first, it's when you start putting other things ahead of God, that's when the whole thing can collapse pretty easily too. And you don't see it all at once, but if you put your kids ahead of your marriage, or you put your marriage ahead of your faith, I think that's when it can really lead to some problems.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think too, we have listeners obviously of all demographics, to, different ages. A 20-year-old guy versus a 55-year-old mother, soon to be grandmother. Obviously different buckets, different values placed on those buckets. But like, let's take the Michael Phelps example. You have a guy that's the best at something in the world for a long period of time, from his childhood until he's in his early, mid, late 20s, right? So that bucket is overflowing for a very long period of time. But he went through a lot of his own mental anguish and depression and stuff, because what happens when you become kind of a normal person? Your Olympian days are kind of behind you, so to speak. And what else do you have to lean on? What else do you have? What are your relationships like, other than those of the coaches and the immediate people helping you become a world-class swimmer? So, it's kind of like, what now? Right? What are you left with? Who am I if I'm not a swimmer? These are questions people need to think about when they when they're all in on one particular bucket and letting all those others run dry.
Yeah. And for me, being in my 40s, health and fitness, that's more efficiency and having energy and mobility and not being in pain and maintaining. I've built enough muscle in my life. I'm like in 220s, sometimes 230s. I don't need more muscle. It's just keeping the fat loss down, which really comes down to diet, and then making sure I'm moving every day, burning calories, moving, and just keeping those energy levels up and just staying healthy. But that's not something for me that needs to be 2-3 hours a day. But maybe if you're pre-diabetic and you're really got a obesity problem going on, maybe that becomes your number one priority for a while to get that in check. It's a constant change and flexing type situation with all these buckets.
Yeah.
And even within each one of these, there's different priorities and things that need to be handled. I mean, if we look just in my family situation, I know I don't like to label, but I definitely recharge when I'm by myself. So I can be social and get along, but I also like my quiet time. So I need some of that. I need to be alone sometimes, just really for my own mental health and to recharge. At the same time, I like guys' time, hanging out with the guys, iron sharpens iron, the accountability, the brotherhood, and having that time. Then there's time I like to spend as a family, all four of us together doing like family activities. But I also know the value and the importance of date night and one-on-one time with my wife. And then I also like actually time alone with both kids, and I like time individually with each of them, like for bonding, like all of that. And I feel like that's not just me. I know my wife needs these different things too. And I've always been able to do this. I can just kind of sense it, like, wait a minute, you haven't been like exercising as much, so you're not getting those positive hormones flowing. I can tell, like, hey, have you been to yoga this week? And she's awesome at it. She goes all the time. She does what she needs to do. But I can tell, you've been really busy. You've been overwhelmed. You need like a night to yourself, or you need a girls' night, or we need a date night, or maybe it's been too much, the four of us lately. I'm going to take a kid and go do this. Why don't you two hang out? And I'm really good at balancing that with work too. Like, there's ups and downs of it. I'll be away at a trip and working my butt off for a few days, but then I'll come home and like work less, spend more time with the family. And I'm pretty good at balancing that across all these different areas. And I think you're pretty good at it too. And I think it just changes really with seasons and priorities. There can be a season to go really hard on business. There can be a season to really hit the gym and go hard on your health and fitness. But there's some that are constants that just need to be part of the life, and that's the devotional time and that relationship with God, and then that marriage time. You're either growing closer or you're drifting apart.
Yeah.
The marriage thing is not just going to be like okay automatically with no work or effort. It's constant. And there's no one out there that's got this perfect situation where it's easy and a bed of roses every single day and they never fight. We laugh at this sometimes looking on social media, these amazing family pictures over Thanksgiving and stuff. And, like, there's all kinds of, like, family drama and chaos going on behind the scenes.
That smile you see in the picture wasn't there minutes prior,
well,
right? Yeah, maybe.
There's good times and bad times,
right.
but no one's got, like, the perfect life.
Right.
And, comparing ourselves and it's a whole nother can of worms. It's a whole nother podcast, actually.
Yeah, it really is. It's understanding that all of us are human beings and we all have our great moments and we all have our can't wait till this day is over kind of moments. And that's okay. But the number one thing for us being God, when I am in prayer time and in devotional time and going to church and listening to worship music and doing all those things, it makes all of those other things feel better.
Easier.
The burden is lifted in all those other categories because I feel like it's not just me in the fight, so to speak. I have somebody else that's supporting me and lifting me up and filling me up and keeping me at a particular level where I am showing up at my best for everybody. And it's not there's a lot of moments where I go, I should have done that better.
Yeah, it's relying on his strength. And without it, it's harder to keep life going the way we need to.
Let's pause for a moment of Scripture. He who plants and he who waters are one, and each will receive his wages according to his labor. 1 Corinthians 3:8. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. Do all things without grumbling or questioning, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. Philippians 2:14-15.
Something to point out, I'm not dissing on people that are world-class in certain things because I think the world needs these people.
Yeah, it's a good
and that's
point.
Okay. I mean, there can be soldiers and people that are gone and fighting in wars and they're not home, but they're defending our country and giving us freedoms. There's business like tycoons of industry.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, people that are bringing us to space and coming up with all kinds of amazing inventions and innovations for the world and coming up with the internet and all the different things that are happening that's not happening from some guy putting in like 30 hours a week and hanging out with the kids like all the time. So, I mean, there's definitely different types of people and there's not right or wrong to this. We need all of it. It's just more think about it for yourself. What out of these kind of areas where are you kind of dipping or dropping below what's acceptable for you? Maybe average. For me, I don't want to be average in anything. If I'm a C in any of these things, I'm going to get pissed off.
Right. But that's where then your focus goes, right?
Well, I'll make sure everything on here is a B or higher. And it might switch like maybe I can have like 3 A's and 2 B's.
Like a nice looking report card, from like 5th grade.
Yeah. My report cards were not that.
I know that's
not that
okay.
nice looking. But yeah, I want to be above average in everything, and I want to be like great at a few things. And I think those things can change over the years and over the decades, and just whatever the different priorities are. Mm-hmm. And I could share one other. don't know if it's a mistake. It is a mistake, and I've learned from it. It's just something to be cautious of or to be aware of, and just be careful who you're modeling or following, because you can look at someone in one area of life and they are dominating it and crushing it, and you want to be that in that area. Mm-hmm. And then just ask yourself, okay, if I'm going to do all the same things this person's doing in this, what's that going to do to these other areas of my life? And it doesn't matter if it's following a motivational business coach, or if you're following some fitness model, or some person who seems
Hollywood
like they're the best
yeah.
dad you've ever seen.
Right.
Like, what if you want to do what they're doing? First of all, do you know anything about these other areas of their life at all? Because you maybe take some tips from that they're really good at. Of course, you want to model successful people. Take some ideas from what's working, but don't think that you want to be that person, because you've got some amazing blessings in your life that maybe they don't have those things going for them. Maybe they would kill for some of the things you have in your life that you're taking for granted. But you're looking at them like, wow, if only I had all this. Look at them and model them and take ideas from them. Yeah. But there's no perfect person. We all mess up, and everybody's got skeletons in their closet. Yeah. So
look at some of the most highly successful people, and I always think of that Jim Carrey quote when he says, "I hope everyone gets everything that they ever wanted, with the wealth and all that stuff and fame, only to realize that that's not what matters or what fills you up." And I'm paraphrasing what he's saying, but what he's basically saying is, from the outside looking at other people's lives, we go, oh, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great to be that person, to live that life, to have that success and all that money? But yet we're not seeing the other parts, the stuff that's not televised, the stuff that's not put out there, that we're not seeing behind closed doors. We're seeing a version of that person. We're not seeing a whole person.
Sure. So I almost pick like mentors or coaches in each of these different things. Like, there'll be certain pastors that I listen to get help with faith and learn about God. But then business coaches, that's a whole different person. And then when it comes to health and fitness, I'm not following the pastor or the business coach, usually somebody who knows about that. Same thing for the marriage advice stuff, someone who has a successful marriage that's been through ups and downs and has some experience and is sharing some wisdom with that from someone older with more experience than me.
That's right.
Someone who's a good parent that I admire. Like, take from everyone and model it and use it, but just remember, just because they are an A+ at that thing, they might be a C in these other things, and that's okay. But for my priorities, for what I'm trying to do, I want to be like really good at all these different things. Mm-hmm. And some of them I'm going to be great at, but it's going to be at different times.
Yeah, absolutely. 10 years ago.
But I want to be married in 10 years.
Yeah.
And I want to have a relationship with God. So those two have to stay A's. Right. And I want my kids to, respect and want to have a relationship with me when they're out of the house. So those have to be the top. Right. They're going to be the top.
10 years ago, we were just having our kids, right? We were having babies, right?
It's like, how are these things not important? It's money, being healthy, faith, like your marriage, your children, your family, like they're all important. And if you're going to be like crush it, world class in something, just don't let these other things fall down to a D.
That's right.
That's really it.
It's self-reflection, and it's being honest with yourself. It's just, a lot of people are scared to kind of really look at their lives, and look at where everything is and take stock on where everything is. It can be frightening to people. They don't want to invest that's an emotional
you can hide in some of these areas to get away from other areas. Yeah. Like a lot of men, if they're not happy at home, it's pretty easy to just work more and stay late all the time. And then you just dominate and I think I've said dominate like 74 times this episode, but they'll do great at business, but they're not home and they don't want to be home because they don't like it at home and they can't control things at home.
And they're getting D's and F's at home. Yeah.
Right. But I'm saying it's almost they're doing it on purpose because that's a problem area that they're trying to avoid. Yeah. Or what if you can't stand your job? You're miserable and you don't want to like make a change. You don't want to move to Freedom, Florida, and you're just stuck wearing a mask every day at work, even on your smoke break or whatever. And it's like, so you just go to the gym after work for like 3 hours a day, every single day. And
so maybe now your health and fitness is a super high level.
Yeah, but you're like avoiding anything to do with your career and your financial security.
Right. I mean, in 10 years from now, we're going to have kids that are out of the house, finishing high school, into college, where now we're empty nesters. You know, we're going to be, that's a whole new, like what a mega shift that's going to be, where now we have all this time more, to now invest into our career bucket, into our marriage bucket, into, Yeah,
but some of these, you have to make the time now. This could be the busiest time of life.
Yeah.
Maybe in your mid-30s through like your 50s. Yeah. I mean, you've got parents that are getting older, hopefully, that might need some time and some caring. You've got young people, children maybe, that are relying on you. You're trying to keep your marriage healthy. You're right in the midst of like peak of your career of trying to hit your earning power and make the most money you can before you're going to be retiring before you know it. You're trying to stay healthy at the same time. There's a lot going on, and there's not a lot of time, and you're getting pulled in a million different directions.
Oh, geez, you're stressing me out right now.
Well, that's why this balance stuff is important, because otherwise you're just going to get pulled around by the tide. Yep. Whatever happens, happens. You got to be intentional about what you're doing.
Yeah. It's a conversation that more people need to have, or at least, like I said just a few moments ago, the reflection for each of us. We each need to sit down like what you did the other day, Mike, and write out on a piece of paper, what are our big areas? What are our buckets? What are these kind of non-negotiables or priorities in our life, from our health to obviously a relationship with our Creator, to our marriage, to our children, to our financial future, all these things. And we need to give ourselves a grade. I would encourage people listening, give yourself a grade for all these different areas, whether it's 5 you come up with or 10, and then take note of that and start working in a direction towards improving that mark and trying to get to that B plus A level, knowing that there's going to be a little bit of up and down in there.
If you get too lofty on some of these things, I think some of these other ones will drop. And as long as you're aware of that and okay with that, then go for it. I mean, if you want to be 7% body fat, you might be cranky when you've got no carbs. Like, it might affect some of your relationships or your career. I mean, maybe not. Maybe some guys have this all figured out, and that's just for me. I don't know, but I know for me, like, I can get to a certain level and like everything functioning good, but then past that, now I'm like not wanting to concentrate at work. I'm getting pissed off at home. It's like that's too much for me, so I got to back that off a little. But like you said, with the plan, you could sit down and say, maybe you have these same buckets, and you're like, okay, I want to go churches every Sunday, and I'm going to do like 10 minutes of prayer time devotional every morning to just start the day and set the tone for the day. Then you're going to say, okay, for work, I'm going to commit that I'm working no more than 40 hours a week, and I'm going to communicate effectively when like there's projects going on and I need to put in extra time, and I'm only going to do 3 or 4 work trips per year. And then you kind of got that limit there, and you've got that time frame to do like as much as you possibly can, as long as it fits in that time frame. And then if you just work smarter and make better choices with the time that you have, like, the sky is still the limit. You don't have to work like 80 hours a week. We've done lots of episodes on this. Health and fitness for me, it's like Monday through Friday, work out 1 hour a day, and then just get your nutrition to like something manageable that's not going to kill you. Marriage, maybe you just say 1 date night a week. Maybe you haven't had a date night in like 4 years. Okay, how about 1 date night per month?
Right, start small.
Okay, get a babysitter if you don't have one. Like, start with that.
Do it date day. Some people are like, ooh, I don't know, date night, I don't go out and spend hundreds of dollars we don't have on the dinner. Do a date day. Do something for 2 or 3 hours that helps you and your wife. Go for a walk together. Go to a park. Go to lunch together. Go do something fun that maybe you used to do early in your relationship, like something goofy or fun, roller skating, rollerblading, or playing a game outside, or think back. The more we can put ourselves into those earlier days, or whether it's our childhood, playing games to be physically active, or things that we did early on in our relationships. Bring yourself back to those moments and rekindle some of that magic from those times.
Sure. The other 2 buckets, the kid bucket, if you've got children, maybe it's just reading. You're going to read to them for 20 minutes each night, or you're going to do something with them something on the weekend as a family.
Yep.
Then if you've got a financial or an investing bucket, maybe you have an automatic withdrawal that goes into a 401k or a Roth IRA. Like, just start with small things like that, kind of assess these different areas of your life that are important to you. And, really, it's just about setting your priorities and having different seasons and trying not to let anything sink too small. For me, when they say balance is overrated and you need to be all in and go absolutely apeshit in one area and just crush it, I'm not doing that, because I'm not going to let these other areas mess me up. And I've seen too many guys lose their families, lose their health, pursuing business, and I've seen people lose their business and lose their families pursuing health and fitness, and I've seen other guys that all they want to do is sit home and work part-time and not really have any other ambitions, and nothing else is happening either. They're out of shape sitting on the couch making no money, but they're spending lots of time with the family. So none of these are good solutions for me.
Yeah. No doubt about it.
But everybody do what you want to do. But I'm saying balance is not overrated. I like having balance in my life.
Yeah.
Keeping everything like a B or an A.
Yeah, I like it too. And, it's just perspective. Our perspective has definitely shifted from what we thought balance meant, or life balance, to what we think about it today. But, well, I thank you for making some time for this conversation today.
Well, I'm here anyway.
Right. You were in the building.
And it's time to go to yoga.
Yeah. So, hey, now's a good time for all of our amazing listeners to go ahead and, figure out somebody that should hear this conversation, should think about these things. And I know it could be a big help, because it's helped me just talking with Mike, focusing in on this and knowing I could do this better. I could do that better. What grade would I give myself for this right now or that? And there are little ways for us to start making strides in a more positive direction to get those A's and B's in our different areas of life. So thank you so much for choosing Strong by Design. We appreciate you. And as always, we will be back next week with another episode on Wednesday morning. We thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.